I feel a rant coming on. How's it going, guys? Cameron here as Canadian Gamer, coming at you with another video. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're all enjoying your holidays wherever you are. Hope you're all staying safe and warm. Lots of crazy weather out there. Just like I said, whatever you're doing, just make sure you don't do anything I wouldn't do. So I got something I want to talk about here today. Now, before we get into that, I'll quickly show you guys what I've been up to. I wasn't really planning on putting in another video until I completed Doom Eternal. Yes, that's right. I got back into Doom Eternal. This takes advantage of ray tracing on the Xbox Series X, which I recently hooked up. I have a lot to say on this. I'm about halfway through it. Not going to talk too much more about it, but yeah, having a lot of fun with it. And I'm playing Donkey Kong Land 2. And I'm playing it on the Analog Pocket. And wow, what an incredible game. It's like Donkey Kong Country 2, but it's obviously for the Game Boy. And I don't know how Rare was able to do what they did with this game, condensing it into a Game Boy game, but it's pretty incredible. Even the music is incredible in it. And I've been playing Quake 2 on the Xbox 360 because those of you in the know, back in the day, if you picked up Quake 4 for the Xbox 360, the first pressings came with a second disc, which was Quake 2, which you could play, I believe, at 1080p on the Xbox 360. So I've been playing through that as well. So on to today's topic. Those of you who have been living in a shell or in a bubble, you may not have heard, but on the Digital Foundry weekly podcast, DF Weekly, I think it's called, John Linneman made a statement about how he talked to a few developers in the know, and they had disclosed to him that they had heard Nintendo had initially planned to release a Switch Pro, but a Nintendo Switch Pro, but they kiboshed that altogether. And now everybody in the community, all the usual suspects, has ran with this news story. And I'm sure John Linneman, if he could run that back, he probably wouldn't have said the things he said on that DF Weekly, because now there's a huge spotlight on John Linneman and all the rest of it. So I just wanted to sort of chime in and give my 2 cents on it. It's just my opinion. Anyone who's been watching my channel, I'm not really a huge advocate of the Nintendo Switch. That being said, if you're into the Nintendo Switch, if that's something that you're into, hanging around in public parks and swimming pools and no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's fine. If you like the Nintendo Switch, different strokes for different folks. It's funny, when the Nintendo Switch came out, what was it, 6 years ago now? It seems like it's been quite a while. It was the hottest console on the street. You couldn't get one. They were sold out everywhere. Even up until, last year? They were always sold out. Man, oh man, have the tides turned. It's no longer the hottest product out there. And, right now, it's no secret the Xbox Series console and the PS5 is the hottest piece of electronics right now. The Nintendo Switch has become long in the tooth. It's long past its expiration date. But the thing is, a lot of you guys that watch this content on YouTube, it's very easy to forget that the average consumer, we're talking about a father or a mother, they're not watching YouTube, they're not watching my channel, they're not watching Digital Foundry, they're not watching Dreamcast Guy. They don't know the difference between a Nintendo Switch and a PS5 as far as the graphics and performance is concerned, okay? Benchmarking. No. If their kid wants a Nintendo Switch, they're going to pick their kid up a Nintendo Switch. I don't have the statistics in front of me. I have to imagine, I could be wrong, but a lot of kids that are between the ages of, I don't know, 5 and 12. I'm sure they're probably still interested in having a Nintendo Switch, because at that age, a lot of times you're outside, you're on the bus, you're walking to school, you're on the school grounds, you're in the lunchroom, you're on your recess break, and it's a lot easier for a child to use a Nintendo Switch when they're out playing with little Timmy than it is to have a PS5 hooked up to the TV in the living room or an Xbox Series console. But that being said, I think there is a segment of the consumer that has become restless, because let's just call it as it is, right? All the best games are not available on the Nintendo Switch for the most part, right? The Callisto Protocol, soon to be released Alan Wake 2, Starfield, pretty much any game that requires decent hardware to run is not going to be on the Nintendo Switch. We've got God of War, Ragnarok, Horizon, Forbidden West, A Plague Tale, Requiem. There's just so many games that I have to imagine a lot of Switch owners out there are seeing these games come out, and they're seeing these exclusives on the Xbox console and the PlayStation 5, and they're envious. They're fucking jealous. That's got to be one of the main issues with being a current owner of a Switch right now, is that you're gonna miss out on a lot of these sick games that are coming out. Now, yes, the Switch is gonna get the new Zelda game that's gonna come out in May, and that's gonna turn the internet upside down, and everybody's gonna have their dicks right up in the air, all hot and horny for the new Nintendo Zelda game that's coming out, whatever it's called. I don't even know anymore. But aside from that, let's be honest here, folks. The PS5 and the Xbox Series console is in more demand right now than the Nintendo Switch. I went to the store the other day, plenty of Switches. I actually went to a GameStop, and from what I could tell, they had PS5s in stock. So I think it's not as difficult to get them anymore, depending on where you go. But yeah, like I said, the Nintendo Switch is long in the tooth, but I don't think that constitutes Nintendo developing a Nintendo Switch 2. And while we're talking about this, let's just get it out there right now. There's some YouTubers that are like posing this as a argument, like, oh, Nintendo's not coming out with a Switch Pro anymore. They're coming out with a Switch 2. What's the fucking difference between a Switch Pro and a Switch 2? A Switch 2 would be a Nintendo Switch that's more powerful, right? It's the same as the Switch Pro, okay? Touch grass, folks. Touch grass. But I think at the end of the day, from a business perspective, I think the Nintendo Switch, even in its current iteration, it's still a viable product, especially with what's going on in the world right now, with electronics and whatnot. It's probably not the best time for Nintendo to try to reinvent the wheel or come out with another console when they've already got a huge fan base, install base, if you will, for the Nintendo Switch. And even though the Nintendo Switch is underpowered, it can still, house a lot of games out there that are being designed to be able to run on an Apple phone or an Android phone, let's be honest, and people are still going to pick it up for the Nintendo Switch. So, yeah, I don't think Nintendo Switch is coming out with a new console anytime soon. I think a lot of it has to do with the pandemic. I think it also has to do with the success of the console. Like I said, even though it is sort of waning a bit, there's a lot of restless consumers that are chomping at the bit to, either say to Nintendo, hey, shit, or get off the pot, come out with a more powerful console so I can play some of these games that these PS5 and Xbox owners are playing. Or I'm going to jump ship and get a PS5 or an Xbox Series console, right? But I think there are a lot of gamers and a lot of consumers that don't care about the PlayStation 5 and they don't care about the Xbox ecosystem, and they're perfectly happy with their Nintendo Switch. So I do totally understand that. Again, I don't see Nintendo coming out with a new console anytime soon. The last thing they want to have is a situation where developers are releasing games for a new Nintendo Switch, and then you won't be able to get one because it'll be the hottest item at retail. And then what are the other Switch owners going to do? You know, how many Switches have been sold to date? Like 1 billion? So whatever console comes out next for the Nintendo Switch, I think it can't be too powerful, because I think the games still need to run in some fractured state on the original Switch. I think the Switch is a victim of its own success. It became so popular and so big that Nintendo has this huge install base. It's hard to sort of walk away from that. And somebody said it on Twitter too. Like, I think the last thing Nintendo wants to do is have a situation where they come out with like a Wii U, kind of like when the Wii U came out and it was a huge flop. Obviously, if and when Nintendo comes out with a revised Switch, it will be a Switch. So they're not going to come out with a different console altogether that has nothing to do with, how the Switch is handheld, hook it up to the TV, etc. But for all you guys out there that are swinging your dicks in the air, excited for a Switch 2, you need to get over that. That ain't coming out anytime soon. If and when a Switch 2 comes out, you won't hear from John Linneman about it. It'll come from the horse's mouth. It'll come from Nintendo. And if I had to guess, it'll probably be another 2 or 3 years before you get a new Nintendo Switch. I'm calling it now. A lot of it has to do with the economy. Right now, we're in like a global recession, not just in Canada, not just in the US, all over the world. Now is not the right time to come out with a new Nintendo Switch. It just does not make sense from a business perspective. It's the same with the Xbox Series console and the PS5. People are chomping at the bit for a PS5 Pro, right? Or an Xbox Series X model. That's not happening. That is not happening this generation. The PS5 and the Xbox Series X is the console for this generation. There isn't going to be a Pro model. I'm sorry, guys. That's just the way that it is. But yeah, it's just crazy watching all the buffoons, in the retro community that are all hot and horny over a Nintendo Switch 2, taking, I think, what John Linneman said out of context and putting him in the hot seat. When in actual fact, we haven't heard anything from Nintendo regarding a Switch 2 or a Switch Pro. And like I said, from a business perspective, the average consumer that doesn't watch YouTube, doesn't watch our videos, has no idea what we're talking about. Okay? A 37-year-old mother buying their 10-year-old Nintendo Switch for Christmas isn't going to know the difference between a Switch and a PS5. They're not. Okay? These people aren't gamers. So, yeah, do I think the Nintendo Switch is long in the tooth? Yes. Do I think their install base is getting restless when they see all the exclusives that are being offered for the PS5 and the Xbox console? Yes, I do. But do I think there's a huge chunk of their install base that doesn't really care about that and will continue to buy games for the Nintendo Switch, regardless of whether or not these games look like they could have been on an Xbox One or an Xbox 360 and dated graphics, poor frame rate, etc.? Yeah, I think that's a moot point. It's like the new Pokemon games that came out for the Switch. They got absolutely ridiculed for poor frame rate, terrible graphics, coming in hot. The game should have been left in the oven for a couple of more months. But does the average consumer care or know about any of that? No. They're going to buy that game and give it to their kid, and no one's going to know any better. That's the thing. You guys that watch YouTube and you watch all these channels, Digital Foundry, Review Tech USA, Dreamcast Guy, IGN, John Hancock, Metal Jesus Rocks. The average consumer does not watch any of these channels, and they don't give a shit about frame rate. They don't care about ray tracing. They do not scrutinize games like we do, okay? It's very, very easy to forget about that and not see the forest through the trees. The average consumer isn't going to watch this rant video, and they're not going to give a shit about graphics or any of that bullshit, okay? So if you're waiting for a Switch 2 or a Switch Pro, don't hold your breath. It ain't coming. It ain't coming anytime soon. So just, put that one on the back burner, okay? And next time you say something like that, John, come and talk to me first, okay? Anyways, guys, I hope you're enjoying your holiday. Thanks so much for watching. I'll be back with something else shortly. And have a good night. Take care.